All right, Jennifer, first of all, before we begin, Happy New Year to you. This is our first time speaking in the new year.
Happy New Year, Aaron, and Happy New Year to all our listeners. Imagine all the action that's happened since we last spoke, and there was Christmas and the holidays in between.
Yeah, and I thought we'd come back to a quiet time after the holidays. It has been, of course, anything but. So let's dive in there and pick a place to start on this. First of all, the race to replace Justin Trudeau. So he announces Monday he's resigning. We thought, it'll take a while maybe to find out who might be interested. Well, we now know the only candidate who is officially confirmed is Frank Baylis, a former Montreal MP. We also found out today Dominic LeBlanc, who many people thought would have a really good chance, has decided not to run. Any surprises there?
No. Okay. Well, first of all, I hope you have a great interview with Frank. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a great person. So he's the one person that has said yes. He was making noises about this earlier in the summer. Then he kind of withdrew a little bit, which I think was a good thing to do. Marc Miller and Dominic LeBlanc are hard no's. Some maybes are Mélanie Joly, Mark Carney, Jonathan Wilkinson, and François-Philippe Champagne. I would say, I don't know about Jonathan Wilkinson. I don't know him well. I know his chief of staff well, but I would say that Mélanie Joly and François-Philippe Champagne are definitely going in, as well as Mark Carney. The rumored category, we have former BC Premier Christy Clark, and of course our former Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. When she crawls out from under the bus, she may put her leadership cap on. I believe that will be the case. Interesting about Christy Clark, she apparently doesn't speak French but has been learning. So she's been taking intensive French courses. I know friends of mine have called me about her. I mean, this will be the first leadership race since 2003 that I haven't been involved with. So this is going to be really interesting to observe rather than to work on. Now, the rules, Aaron, are being established by the party executive as we speak. So they have to have an expedited process, weeks rather than months. I heard something on CJADs this morning, so I'm happy to quote what I heard. Brian Lilly was saying a $500,000 entry fee. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money, which it is, but what it will prevent is distraction candidates who just want to go in to get their faces known and get their name recognition up. This is going to be a very, very tightly timed race. What they need to look at, and I thought this was very interesting because this was never anything that I have encountered in all my years as a Liberal Party organizer and so forth, that in nomination rules permitting international students and non-Canadian residents to vote. Now that is really problematic. And I hope that they get rid of that. Also, some people were making some noise about 14-year-olds being allowed to vote for the leadership. Now, this is nothing new. So young Liberals are allowed to vote in any internal party race, and young Liberals are Liberals aged between 14 and 25 years old. So they are not able to vote at the, like grown-ups do for, elections, Canada and Quebec, that type of thing, but they can vote in internal party races. This is not new. Mm-hmm. This has been around for ages. So this will be a really, really interesting race to watch, and I'm looking forward to discussing it with you, Aaron.
To your point, and I heard them talking about that this morning as well, this Brian Lilly post that said it takes $500,000, $500,000 to sort of get in the game. And I understand that it's supposed to basically take people who are not serious and say, okay, put your money where your mouth is, for all intents and purposes. But I couldn't help but think, doesn't that in some way dissuade some other people who don't happen to have access to that kind of money, but have clear, good ideas that might resonate with the party from getting involved?
Oh, it absolutely does. The thing is that this is a sort of a special case of a leadership. I mean, it is so short. We have to have, the party thing. I'm no longer an active Liberal, but the leader needs to be in place by March 24th. I was quite surprised at 500,000 because it is a lot, and it is sort of hampers the democratic process. But unfortunately, I think that this race is going to be short on time and short on a lot of differing ideas. Where it's not going to be a policy discussion. It's probably going to be whoever's got the best organization is going to end up being prime minister for a week or two.
Okay. By the way, what happens to that money?
I don't know what happens to the money.
Does it stay in Liberal coffers? Is that the idea? That
it does. It's just basically to be able to reserve your place. So what they will do with it, it's an entry fee, so it stays in Liberal coffers. It doesn't go into party operations. It doesn't go to pay staff in Ottawa or anything like that. And I guess it basically is. It probably serves as an insurance policy too, depending on candidate behavior. We'll see about when the rules are set. so we can go a little bit deeper into it then. But no, they're not going to take the money. Like, they'll probably hold it in an account somewhere, and but it won't be spent.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned that much. I was just curious. It's a lot of money, depending on how many people run. Could be a couple of $1,000,000 in there, So I'm just saying.
At least.
Let me ask this question, because as we discuss this, it would seem to me, and I think you basically said the same thing, time is of the essence here, right? I know March 24th seems like it's far away, but it'll be here in a heartbeat. And the Liberals will need to have someone in place. That person will have to have support, obviously, not just from the people who vote him or her in, but from Canadians who have to learn who this person is, right? And then, of course, the question becomes, wow, look, you have a new leader, and the government will be brought down in a vote in the House in a couple of days after that. Why would you want to put yourself in this kind of position? Or how big for lack of a better word, how big of an ego would you have to think that you could be the person who all of a sudden can wipe out a 20-point lead in polls and take this party and have them win an election? Well,
Aaron, having been in politics for many, many years, there's no shortage of egos floating around at any level. And in this race, I'd say, Frank Bayless does not have a huge ego, as you'll discover this afternoon. But, there are people who clearly want to do good things. Like, I look at Mark Carney. I look at, François-Philippe Champagne. I mean, I think, he is eschewed the provincial Liberal leadership race, I think, in order to be able to run in this race. I mean, I think that a lot of people are perhaps looking at this as a bit of a long game. I think some of these maybes will turn into no's over the coming days as the rules are rolled out. And I think probably by the end of the week, we're going to have a pretty good idea of what those rules look like, because this has to happen really quickly. Okay.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. I've been talking a lot about with our listeners. We heard from many of them today, this comment about annexing Canada, making it the 51st state. The good news, Donald Trump doesn't plan to use military force, simply economic force. What do you make of all this? And what should be the reaction you've seen so far? And all the opposition leaders have spoken up. Are you happy with what you've seen and heard?
Yes and no. So, so this afternoon, our premier, François Legault, put out a long missive on X and talked about, he's a bit softer on this whole issue than some of the other premiers, and maybe a little bit softer than I would like him to be. I would like him to threaten turning off the hydro switch there. I think that would be pretty effective, because if they think that they don't need things from Canada, think again. But it's reassuring for Canadians to know that the premiers are all meeting this afternoon, and in advance of a meeting with Prime Minister Trudeau next week to discuss the tariff issue. Basically, they are going to come together as a united front. Now, the person that is the head of I think it's called the Council of Federation or something like that, is Doug Ford. And I have grown in admiration for Doug Ford, because he is gutsy, and he's very plain speaking, and he mentioned, buying Alaska, purchasing Minnesota. But I think that has to have a limit. Like, don't tweak him too much. Don't tweet at him too much, because this is the type of thing that will create a reaction. I mean, remember when we talked about this the first time, and I said, in every joke, there's a grain of truth. This was after the meeting at Mar-a-Lago. Well, it seems to be the 51st state. It seems to be something. And the other thing that I think that he would like to have from us is our fresh water. Now, we look at what he does. He does policy by tweet. So he went after the Democratic governor of California today and insulted him. Basically called him an incompetent because he had not gotten water from Northern California down to Southern California fast enough to be able to quell some of the fires. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you had a big tap up north that you could just pour on all these situations? So, we need to really take this seriously. I do think that both Mélanie Joly and Premier Legault were correct in saying, like, let's kind of go slow, go easy, take it seriously. Let's not antagonize him. I know that the situation with our current Prime Minister Trudeau and Trump, this is something that has come from the first mandate. They never liked each other, and our Prime Minister had as much to do with this as Trump did in terms of the acrimony between the two of them. But lots to watch out for in the next week. And I'm very impressed with Doug Ford more and more, and that's not just ripping up the bike path.
Yeah. Oh, you could have stopped at that. That would have been great for me. Listen, I'm kind of with you on that. The fact that he's not shied away, right? He's gone there. He said what he had to say. He was brave enough, if you will, to go on Fox News yesterday. So I'm kind of with you on that. I'm gaining respect for Doug Ford as well. Hey, Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Jennifer,
bye.
You bet.